Hello, everybody. Welcome to Terence's Take. We're here for the week of, we're in March already. This is incredible. March 4th, Monday, March 4th, 2019. And I tell you, this guy is fantastic. Barrett Pitner. Barrett is great for a lot of reasons. He is Mr. Soccer. We're going to talk to him about soccer today. But, Barrett, he's on television. He's all over the place. He's a political commentator. MSNBC, you'll see him. The BBC. He's written for the Daily Beast, Huffington Post. And Barrett, here's the big thing right now. You've got this feature-length documentary. And the name of this is so intriguing. A cross-culture Day of the Dead. What alters a cross-culture Day of the Dead? And I'm sure you don't want to reveal too much about this, but give us a little tease as to what this is about.
Yeah, thanks. So we're still in production with the film, and so it's a cross-cultural Day of the Dead, which is what the title says. So like every year, the Mexican community will have Day of the Dead from October 31st to November 2nd, and they'll gather and they'll create altars to remember their ancestors and loved ones who have passed away, and it just creates this really amazing safe space for communities to come together and tell their stories or remember their ancestors and people that they loved. And this is just a thing that America doesn't have outside of that community at a large scale. And as an African American, I have a lot of friends that are Mexican too, and I participate in Day of the Dead, and I immediately recognize how this could be beneficial for my community, the African American community, and that it could give us a safe space and a ritual, a tradition to remember our ancestors and talk about our history and our culture. And, in recent years, stuff like Black Lives Matter and creating spaces to talk about Black life has really been growing. And so I think this is just like an organic thing that needs to happen that will help the Black community tell our stories and elevate our voices, while also building bridges with the Latino community too.
And you know what? We'll certainly talk more about that in another podcast. But speaking of the dead, the Atlanta United kind of looked dead the other day in Washington, D.C. But here's the thing. Here's what's also interesting. Barrett is an Atlanta native. He lives in Washington, D.C. right now. So here we got two things going on here. We've got this Atlanta native who loves the Atlanta United. And by the way, the Atlanta United folks, if you don't realize this or can't remember this, it just happened just a few months ago. They are the defending Major League Soccer champions. They were awesome last year, okay? But they opened their season this weekend with a very, very pathetic loss, 2-0 in Washington. Barrett's current town right now. And Barrett, I know last year they started out 4-0 with a 4-0 loss at Houston. Of course, they recovered nicely to go ahead and win it all. But should people be concerned about this franchise right now or not?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's really much to be concerned about. There is a new coach, and it definitely will take
Frank DeBoer.
It'll take a minute for the players to get adjusted to the different things that the new coach wants to do. I don't see him trying to make any sort of dramatic changes, so it won't be like a big adjustment period. But they also just played in the CONCACAF Champions League a couple of days earlier, so some players might have been tired. They have to rotate their squad to make sure everyone's healthy, because that CONCACAF Champions League is really important. You're playing against the top teams in North America. So no, and also you got to throw in that the weather was really bad, and it made it harder to have a really good passing game. And so I wouldn't get too concerned about the defeat. It's clearly not the way you want to start a season, but it's nothing to get overly concerned about.
Well, I want to talk about Frank DeBoer, the new coach that you alluded to in a minute. But before I get to that, and also some other changes on that roster, particularly a pretty significant one, I think. Let's get back to this Champions League thing. Now, for those of us who aren't like Mr. or Mrs. Soccer, this seems very confusing to me. All right, here is the Atlanta United starting its season this weekend. Okay, theoretically, it's regular season. and Major League Soccer at Washington, but they were playing beforehand, and as you pointed out, this Champions League, a league with other champions from around, I guess, North America primarily. And now they're in the quarterfinals. The Atlanta United, they're playing this week. Who are they playing this week? Is it Wednesday or Thursday? They're playing a game somewhere. They can continue that league. So, but why is it that soccer has it, Major League Soccer, what have you? They've got this regular season, but then they got this other thing going in the background. That seems very weird to me.
Yeah, so it's funny. This is basically something that has always exists in soccer around the world, where you had your domestic league, where you'll find the best team in the United States or whatever. But if there's a league right next to you that's just as good, you're going to want to have the best team from your league play the best team from that league to determine who's really the best team. And due to that, there will become there will be continental competition that'll be going on at the same time as domestic competitions, where a team's goal for the season will be to not only be the best team in their country, but also the best team in the continent, and then the best team in the world. And this is just, there's the European Champions League that they have, which is the same type of thing, where the best teams from England will play the best teams from France and Spain and Italy and Germany. And then at the end of the season, you'll have a team that's crowned the best team in Europe. And so soccer is all about multiple tournaments, because there's many, many leagues that are just as good as, each other's domestic league. For American sports, we don't really think about it, that being a possibility, because we just think about America as its own place. And if you become the best team in America, we've decided that we will crown you world champions. That's just really not how it works in the rest of the world. You're the champion of your country, and then you have to do something else to see if you're the champion of the continent, and then the potential the champion of the world.
Well, you know what, sticking right there, because, American soccer, as we all know, has been lacking compared to the rest of the world forever, okay? And so we've got the Atlanta United, again, winning this Major League Soccer championship. Major League Soccer has only been around since about the turn of the century or so, and so they're in this competition. So, but generally speaking, Major League Soccer, compared to these other leagues, is like way down the list, right? I mean, we're talking about, you might have to go 8, 9, 10 deep before you can place them on the list compared to the Premier League and some of these other leagues. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, we're way down on the list. And that's partially why this CONCACAF Champions League tournament is so important for the U.S., because these MLS teams need to start making a mark on this tournament and show North America that MLS can compete with the Mexican League. And then if we can compete with the Mexican League, then we can start competing with the Brazilian League and the Argentine League. And if we can compete with them, then we can compete with Europe. So, we're really low in the pecking order. So Atlanta United playing well in this tournament is actually a big deal for MLS.
Yeah, and this is Barrett Pitner, the soccer expert. He's also the political expert. He is just the expert. Barrett, and you were talking about the Mexican League and Mexican National Championship and all that sort of thing. And the thing that's ironic about that, the Atlanta United's original coach, Tata Martinez, he left after they won it all, the Major League Soccer Championship last year, to take over the Mexican national team, and that left a void. And they immediately hired Frank de Boer, who has a lot of experience in the Netherlands, of course, and he's pretty reputable. But we were talking about this one time before about how both Tata and de Boer are into this total football concept, where your players on your team have basically the same kind of technical skills and what have you. But there seems to be a big difference between these guys' coaching style, right? I mean, they're similar in that philosophy, but what is going to be the biggest difference between going from one to the other?
Yeah, so they're both total football kind of guys. And quick back history, total football was created by the Dutch club Ajax,
Yeah.
And then Ajax player Johan Cruyff took it to Barcelona, and Barcelona adopted it, and that's now the backbone of Barcelona. So Tata Martino coached Barcelona and continued that total football philosophy. And Frank de Boer, he started playing. He's Dutch, so he started playing at Ajax, and so he grew up playing total football. And then he played for Barcelona as a professional, in addition to the Dutch national team. And so they both have like a similar education about total football. But with soccer, it's not like American sports where the positions are fixed, where you can have total football and you can put your team on the field in various formations. And then even if you have the same formation, you can give players different instructions. There's a lot more fluidity. So like the way in which two people with the same footballing philosophy can apply it differently is actually, quite open. And you can make adjustments from each match, from match to match. So there's a lot of variations that De Boer could do, compared to Martino. But to be honest, we haven't really seen too much of a drastic change. I guess one thing, and this is going to sound kind of weird, but soccer is a very cultural sport, and stuff that you might consider stereotypical or will show itself. So like how a Dutch person applies total football is traditionally a bit more rigid than how a Spanish speaker, like a Spanish person or someone from Latin America, will adopt total football and have a bit more flair and spontaneity to it. And so Tata's team last year, Tata is from Argentina, coaching Mexico now, and he used to coach Barcelona. They had a lot more flair and creativity and personality.
Pretty aggressive too, right?
Like more of like a Latin application of total football. And De Boer is trying to have a bit more rigidity and like defensive solidity,
right,
without stifling the creativity. Tata was kind of less focused on making the defense like a wall, and more just making sure that the offense scored a bunch of goals.
Right, I think earlier I may have called Tata Martinez instead of Martino, and that's because I'm anticipating where I'm going. I want to talk about some Martinez's here. Okay, we're involved with Atlanta United, and that's was Miguel Almiron, what's his name? Almiron, and Miguel Almiron was the attacking midfielder for Atlanta United, and he was just flat awesome. As a matter of fact, he went to the Premier League after last year, and he's been doing very well in the Premier League. And that was a big concern. I thought that was one of those hidden things that we were going to see a big drop-off there. But it looks like maybe Petty Martinez is a guy that could fill that role. It's almost like going maybe, like a point guard position. Is that kind of like going from Steph Curry to Steph Curry? Is that an overstatement or not?
Yeah, I guess, Yeah, they play the same type of role. They're different players. Like Pitti is right-footed, and Almiron's left-footed, which actually makes a big difference in like how they play soccer. But they have the same role, and Pitti's a great player. I think he was voted like the best player in South America last year. So this is a big signing, and you can see that he's gonna, from the little bit he saw against DC United, he's gonna have a big impact this season. And it's not surprising that they rested him so that he'll be fresh to play in the CONCACAF Champions League. Saving the best player for the most important competition, or at least the most important match. Because MLS, it's a long competition, but the Champions League tournament, if you have one match, you could be out of the entire competition. So he's a big player, and he'll probably be here for a couple seasons. And if he plays really well, he'll get a lucrative deal to go play in Europe, just like Almiron did. And then Atlanta United will keep its infrastructure, its cycle of bringing up some quality players from South America to come to the squad. And frankly, if they can keep this system going, where you come from South America, you play in MLS, you get a bit more exposure, you win a championship, and then you get to go to Europe. Now Atlanta United is becoming a draw for the top talents in Latin America as a launching pad to go to Europe, which is pretty exciting.
And going to the other Martinez, Joseph Martinez, I mean, this guy's incredible. Certainly was last year, MVP in so many ways, Major League Soccer for the Atlanta United. Can he keep up what he did last year this season, or was that just about as good as anybody can get, and it's going to be difficult to top that or even to match that?
It's really hard to say. He'll definitely score a lot of goals. I don't think his form or anything is going to dip. Clearly, it might take him a second to build that intuitive relationship with Martinez, because as a striker, you need to get the ball fed to you to create scoring opportunities. People have to cross it to you. So developing that rhythm with his new teammates and a new coach might take a minute, but he'll be perfectly fine. He's going to score a lot of goals. Will he be the leading scorer in MLS again? Who knows? But he's definitely going to score a lot of goals and be really important this year.
And the biggest question that everybody has, or at least should have, when it comes to Atlanta United, the support for this franchise has been just unbelievable. And again, as an Atlanta native, you know how your city can be sometimes, front runners, and then all of a sudden, if you're not the it thing anymore, it's like, well, get out of here. We're not interested anymore. Record crowds, at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium is just rocking for all of these matches and just the colorful flags and what have you. Can this continue, or do you think that that's in danger of petering out?
I don't think it's in danger of petering out. And, Atlanta's a fascinating city in that for the longest time, everyone that lived in Atlanta were transplants. Yeah. And they were from some other place, and they rooted for some other team. And I think that was like a main reason why we're such a fair weather city, because it's basically transplants rooting for like their second favorite team when that team's playing really well, but they have like another team in another city that they like a lot. But I think a lot of people have been living in Atlanta for a while, and I grew up playing soccer in Atlanta, and we've kind of been yearning for a soccer team for a really long time. And so I don't. My guess is that the fair weatherness that has that hit Atlanta during the 90s and early 2000s might not have as big of an impact on Atlanta United, just due to there being so many people that have been living in Atlanta and like not being transplants, and our passion for soccer. But then just to be frank, like, this team didn't get any worse over the summer, over the off season, and the other teams in MLS didn't get dramatically better. So the likelihood of us all of a sudden losing a lot of matches, unless Frank DeBoer just completely loses the dressing room and is not a good coach, which I don't think that's going to happen, it's pretty slim. So even if we were fair weather fans, which I don't think we are, we'll probably keep on winning enough matches that it won't even become an issue.
And, of course, the final and the biggest question of the moment is, what do you think Barrett Pitner, the Atlanta United, will do this year? Will they repeat as MLS champions or not?
Yeah, sure. They'll repeat. Soccer is a tough one. I think LA Galaxy might try to push them a bit, and there's other good teams, but we're definitely the front runners. The losing opening game is definitely not the best, but we're definitely the front runners, and if we can keep it going, and the big issue for us will be the tournament. We'll have more games this season than other teams if we keep on going in the Champions League. So, that could be it, but we'll probably win it.
Well, we've been listening and talking to Barrett Pitner. Barrett Pitner's everywhere: MSNBC, BBC, Huffington Post, and he's got this great feature-length documentary that's coming out, Alters a Cross-Culture Day of the Dead, not to be confused with the Night of the Living Dead. But anyway, I will be back next week for more stuff. Make sure you tune in. Hopefully it'll be as good as this one. I don't know.